Welcome to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. Get ready for, well, quite an adventure today.
That's right.
We're diving headfirst into the life of a figure who didn't just make headlines, he practically shaped an era. William Jefferson Clinton, the 42nd president.
And we're not just rehashing the headlines you already know.
No way. We're digging deeper, looking for those unexpected twists, the fascinating details that really make his story unique.
Exactly. We've sifted through, a mountain of information to find the most compelling parts of Clinton's story. Think of it like your backstage pass.
A shortcut to understanding a pretty remarkable life.
Our mission really is to pull out those intriguing insights, the moments that maybe make you go, huh, I didn't know that.
Okay, let's set the scene then. Hope, Arkansas, 1946. Bill Clinton enters the world, born William Jefferson Blythe III, and right away there's drama. He never knew his father.
No, his father tragically died in a car crash just 3 months before Bill was born.
But here's the first kind of surprising twist we found. It came out later that his parents' marriage was actually bigamous.
Wow. Talk about a complicated start. It really sets a stage of, unexpected turns right from the beginning.
It does. And his early upbringing was also pretty unique. His mother went off to study nursing.
Right, so young Bill spent those early years with his maternal grandparents, and they ran a local grocery store.
Now, picture this. Segregated Arkansas back then.
Yeah.
And his grandparents extended credit to everyone, people of all races.
That small detail speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the kind of values he might have absorbed, even subtly, from a very young age.
It's a powerful image. Then life shifts again. His mother remarries Roger Clinton Sr. They move to Hot Springs.
And Bill eventually takes his stepfather's last name, Clinton.
But this wasn't some simple, happy family picture. By many accounts, Roger Clinton struggled with alcoholism, could be abusive.
And there's this really pivotal story, right? When Bill was just 14 years old.
Yeah, he apparently stood up to him, challenged him directly.
Imagine that. A teenager confronting an abusive adult figure. It's a snapshot of, surprising courage.
Definitely suggests a certain resilience being forged early on.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that resilience, that determination, you see it pop up again and again later. Speaking of surprising turns, here's a fun fact that jumped out.
Oh, yeah.
Years later, when he's president, Oxford University gives him an honorary degree.
Okay.
And the citation praises him as a doughty and tireless champion of the cause of world peace. They even give a nod to Hillary, calling her a powerful collaborator.
Wow. Quite a journey from that childhood in Arkansas.
Absolutely.
So fast forward a bit, college years, the Vietnam War is just this huge looming presence for his generation.
He was studying in England at the time, at Oxford.
Right, on a Rhodes Scholarship, and he got educational draft deferments while he was there.
But Oxford wasn't just books for him. He got involved. He participated in Vietnam War protests, even helped organize some events.
So he was engaged with the big issues of the day, even across the pond.
Definitely. Then back in the States, the draft was still a very real thing. It looks like he explored a few options.
Yeah, records show he looked into the National Guard, maybe the Air Force Officer Candidate School.
And eventually he made arrangements for the ROTC program at the University of Arkansas Law School.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? A young guy navigating a really divisive time, trying to figure out his path.
It really does.
Yeah.
A period of negotiating these, powerful national currents, a skill that probably served him well later.
So after law school, he heads back to Arkansas, becomes a law professor.
Seems like a pretty standard path, but you get the sense politics was always calling.
Oh, yeah. 1974, Watergate has just blown everything up.
Right. Perfect timing for an outsider.
He runs for the House of Representatives, doesn't win, but in a traditionally Republican district, he comes incredibly close.
Super close. An early flash of that political charisma, that ability to connect.
Definitely got people's attention. That narrow loss probably just fueled the fire.
You'd think so. Because just 2 years later, 1976, he runs for Arkansas Attorney General.
And wins unopposed.
Unopposed. A pretty swift climb in Arkansas politics.
And the momentum just kept building. 1978, he runs for governor.
And wins again at age 32.
Making him the youngest governor in the whole country at the time.
Can you imagine? They even nicknamed him the Boy Governor.
Because he looked so young.
But don't let the nickname fool you. He tackled some big stuff right away. Education reform was front and center.
Spearheaded, really, by his wife Hillary.
Absolutely. They pushed through reforms that increased school funding paid for with a sales tax, which wasn't universally popular.
No, probably not.
Created programs for gifted kids, boosted vocational education, raised teacher salaries, brought in competency testing for teachers.
That's a significant agenda, widely seen as a major achievement, right? Transforming Arkansas education.
Definitely one of the highlights of his governorship. But it wasn't all smooth sailing in that first term.
No. That sales tax plus another unpopular motor vehicle tax.
And then there was the whole situation with the Cuban refugees detained at Fort Chaffee who escaped. That caused a lot of public anger.
Yeah, a real flashpoint.
And that anger had real political fallout. He actually lost his bid for re-election in 1980.
Went from youngest governor to, as he joked, the youngest ex-governor.
Huh. But you know, that wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot.
Not even close. He showed that resilience again, bounced right back, won the governorship again in 1982.
And then held on to it for a decade, right up until he launched his presidential campaign in 92.
Those 10 years back in the governor's mansion were crucial, weren't they? Honing his political chops, building that national profile.
Absolutely. It was like a crucible, really. Forging his connection with voters, testing policy ideas. But it was also when some controversies started to bubble up.
Things that would follow him later. The Whitewater stuff started surfacing then.
Those real estate dealings from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's always important to mention, though, that after years of investigation...
No charges were ever filed against Bill or Hillary Clinton.
Correct. That's a key point. Then there was the death penalty issue.
Yeah, his position seemed to evolve. Some say he opposed it earlier, but as governor, he oversaw executions.
And controversially, he flew back to Arkansas during the 92 presidential campaign to affirm the execution of Ricky Ray Rector, a mentally impaired inmate.
That move sparked a lot of debate. Was it conviction? Political calculation?
Exactly. It raised those kinds of questions. And then there were other whispers, other allegations.
Like the Manana airport situation. Allegations about drug smuggling, though nothing was ever proven against Clinton himself.
Right. And his half-brother Roger's conviction on cocaine charges, which Bill later pardoned him for. Plus, Troopergate.
Claims about using state troopers for personal liaisons.
Yes. And various conspiracy theories tied to Medna and the tragic deaths of two teenagers, Don Henry and Kevin Ives. It all created this kind of persistent background noise of scrutiny as he stepped onto the national stage.
A reminder that the path to the top is rarely clean, huh?
Never seems to be. So let's talk about that road to the White House. He thought about running in '87, but decided against it.
Yeah. Then came the 1988 Democratic National Convention. He gave the opening night address.
And it was memorable, but maybe not in the way he wanted. It went on and on.
Yeah, famously long and kind of panned by critics. Not exactly the big launch moment.
Definitely not. But it clearly didn't put him off for good. By 1992, he was all in. Jumps into the presidential race.
He finishes third in the Iowa caucus. Okay, respectable start, but then...
Then the Gennifer Flowers story breaks. Allegations of a long-running extramarital affair. It felt like it could sink the whole campaign.
A total political firestorm. And what does he do? Goes on 60 Minutes with Hillary.
A huge gamble, addressing the allegations head-on, together.
It was absolutely a calculated risk, but it seemed to work, at least in stopping the bleeding.
It did. It was this really pivotal moment of damage control, and it showcased their political partnership, for better or worse. It helped to regain his footing.
And then came New Hampshire. He finishes a strong second after polling pretty low just weeks before.
And that's when the nickname emerged, the Comeback Kid.
That name just stuck, didn't it?
Totally. He rode that momentum, won key primaries, Florida, Texas, New York.
Sewing up the Democratic nomination, and remember the campaign slogan, 2 for the price of 1.
Right. Highlighting Hillary's expected role. That itself signaled something new in presidential politics.
And he was really effective at tapping into the mood of the country, hitting President George H.W. Bush on his no new taxes pledge.
And just the general feeling that the economy wasn't working for average people, the stage was set.
And he won. So the Clinton presidency. We often hear about peace and prosperity, right?
And statistically, that holds up. His time in office saw the second longest peacetime economic expansion in U.S. history. Big deal.
Huge. He signed major laws too, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement.
And the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. Both quite controversial then and now.
Definitely. But not everything went his way early on. That big push for national health care reform.
Major policy goal.
It failed, didn't pass, even with Democrats controlling Congress. That was a significant setback.
A huge blow to their early agenda. Now, here's where things get interesting, politically speaking. Mid-90s.
Yeah.
We see Clinton kind of shift, move towards the center, or what was called the third way.
Right. He signed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act. major welfare reform.
a bill that angered many liberals in his own party. And he also signed measures easing financial regulations.
It reflected that pragmatic, maybe even triangulating approach he became known for, trying to find that middle ground.
Exactly. And judiciary appointments, huge impact there. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Stephen Breyer to the Supreme Court.
Shaping the court for decades. What about foreign policy?
Very active. U.S. military interventions in Bosnia and Kosovo.
Leading to the Dayton Peace Accords for Bosnia.
Right. Also oversaw the extension of NATO eastward.
And in the Middle East.
Involved in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, Oslo Accords, the Camp David Summit later on, signed the Iraq Liberation Act, also played a role in the Northern Ireland peace process, the Good Friday Agreement.
So a very busy foreign policy agenda. All this leads to...
Re-election in 1996.
Yeah.
Beat Bob Dole and Ross Perot pretty comfortably.
Making him the first Democrat since FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt, to win 2 consecutive terms. That's notable.
Very notable. And his second term saw something else remarkable: budget surpluses.
Almost unheard of in modern times.
And that second term was completely overshadowed, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. The revelation of his affair with a White House intern, Monica Lewinsky.
It consumed Washington, led directly to his impeachment by the House of Representatives in December '98.
Charges of perjury and obstruction of justice. An incredibly divisive, intense period.
Absolutely. But the Senate ultimately acquitted him in February 1999. He finished his term.
Still, it cast a long shadow. And even on his very last day in office.
More controversy. Those last-minute pardons and commutations. A dramatic end to a very dramatic presidency.
Before we move past his presidency, maybe touch on a couple more foreign policy hotspots. Somalia, for instance.
Ah, yes. Early in his first term, the mission started as humanitarian aid, but shifted. Then came the Battle of Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down.
Right. That led to a U.S. withdrawal and definitely made the administration and subsequent ones much more cautious about interventions.
A very significant turning point in post-Cold War foreign policy thinking. Then there was Rwanda in 1994.
The genocide. And the U.S. response was, well, limited.
Extremely limited. A decision that Clinton himself later expressed regret over. It remains a huge point of debate and, frankly, criticism.
And Kosovo, late in his second term.
NATO bombing campaign against Yugoslavia to stop ethnic cleansing of Albanians. Controversial at the time, questions about civilian casualties, the definition of genocide.
Still analyzed today.
Absolutely. And underpinning some of this was the growing threat of terrorism. His administration ordered strikes against targets linked to al-Qaeda in Iraq and Sudan.
Including attempts to get Osama bin Laden.
Right, so even during relative peace, these new threats were definitely emerging and being dealt with, setting the stage for what came next.
It's fascinating looking back at his approval ratings. You'd think impeachment would tank them, but
they actually went up afterwards, reached their peak after the impeachment proceedings. It's kind of counterintuitive.
it really is. Speaks volumes about the complex way the public viewed him, maybe separating the personal from the policies or rallying around him during the partisan fight.
Possibly. He left office with incredibly high approval ratings, tied for the highest for a departing president in the modern era.
And when historians rank presidents, where does he usually fall?
Generally somewhere in the middle to upper middle tier. Not at the very top, not at the bottom. Respected for the economy, criticized for the scandals.
And the nicknames, they really tell a story too. Slick Willie, Bubba, the Big Dog.
Explainer-in-chief. They capture different facets of his personality, his political style.
We also have to mention, though, the numerous allegations of sexual assault and misconduct made against him over many years.
Absolutely. Those are a serious and undeniable part of his story and continue to shape discussions about his legacy.
So what's Bill Clinton been doing since he left the White House back in 2001? He hasn't exactly faded away.
Not at all. He's remained incredibly active.
Yeah.
Public speaking, humanitarian work.
The Clinton Foundation is huge, right? Global reach.
Massive. Working on everything from HIV/AIDS in Africa to climate change initiatives, economic development. He also serves as a UN Special Envoy to Haiti after the earthquake.
And teamed up with other presidents like George H.W. Bush after the tsunami, Obama after Haiti.
Right, showing that post-presidency camaraderie. And he's stayed deep in politics.
Oh, yeah. Campaigned hard for Hillary's runs in 2008 and 2016. Still involved, still commenting.
Very much so. Spoken out on the Iraq War, climate change. And he's written books.
Including his autobiography, My Life, which was a huge bestseller.
And get this. He won 2 Grammy Awards for Best Spoken Word Album.
Seriously, a Grammy winner, too.
Yep, for his autobiography and another project. A testament to his enduring public voice, I guess.
Wow. But the post-presidency hasn't been entirely without controversy either, has it?
No. Questions have been raised about his personal wealth, those high-speaking fees he commands.
And his past association with Jeffrey Epstein came under renewed scrutiny more recently.
Exactly. Those aspects continue to be part of the complex picture.
Still, he's received tons of accolades, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
The Charlemagne Prize in Europe even has places named after him, like Bill Clinton Boulevard in Kosovo, reflecting that intervention we talked about.
And he's faced some health issues too, right? Heart procedures, hospitalizations.
Yes, he has had some significant health challenges in recent years.
Okay, so let's try and wrap our heads around this. What's the big takeaway from this deep dive into Bill Clinton?
I mean, it's just a profoundly compelling, complex American story, isn't it? From that really challenging start in Arkansas to the absolute peak of global power.
Yeah.
And then this incredibly active, sometimes controversial, post-presidency.
It's filled with these huge achievements, side by side, with significant scandals and controversies. He's just been this constant presence.
It really underscores the complexities of leadership, the way politics constantly shifts, and how one person's life can intersect with and shape history in so many different ways.
We really hope this journey through his life has given you, our listeners, some surprising insights, maybe a clearer picture of this pivotal figure.
What stood out most to you listening? What questions do you still have?
Yeah, this is really just scratching the surface, hopefully sparking more curiosity.
Definitely. There are so many layers here, so much more to explore if you're interested.
And hey, if you are enjoying these deep dives, finding these stories as fascinating as we do, please hit that subscribe button. Don't miss our next adventure here on Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast.
We'd love to have you back and maybe leave you with this to think about.
Okay, final thought.
When you weigh the economic prosperity of the 90s against the intense personal scandals and the political polarization, what do you think will ultimately be seen as Bill Clinton's most defining legacy?
Prosperity versus controversy, that's definitely something to ponder. Until next time.